I screamed even more as I began fighting to get her grip off my hair. Albert's mother stepped in and grabbed my hands, holding them tightly behind me while she and her daughter mocked my helplessness. As if planned, they both suddenly let go of me. I lost my balance and tripped, rolling down the long staircase. By the time my body reached the bottom, I'd passed out. My in-laws had left me there until Albert arrived. He was shocked to see me in that state with them doing nothing about it.
You all are insane. Pray. Pray hard, because if she doesn't wake up, I swear I'm gonna make you 3 rot in jail. How can you be so evil? She's carrying your grandchild and nephew. I hate you all.
My in-laws remained nonchalant. Hi there. My name is Sarah, and I'm happily married to my husband, Albert. 3 months after our wedding, Albert was promoted to a different city. It was quite uncomfortable because he would have to be away often, but the pay was tempting and the promotion was a position he'd always dreamed of. I encouraged him to take it and assured him that I would be fine. He did take the job. He would leave home every Monday and return on Friday, stay the weekend, and go back on Sunday night. A month after Albert's promotion, I got pregnant. It was the happiest I'd felt after knowing the location of my wedding. I burst into tears of happiness at the doctor's office when he told me I was 3 weeks gone. Immediately I got home, I called Albert and shared the news to him. He requested to be absent for 2 days at his workplace. Luckily, it was granted, and he was able to come home, and we both had a little celebration. The next day, which was the day before Albert returned to work, we had to go to his parents' home to spread the news. I was so nervous. My husband's family despised me. The first time Albert introduced me to them, I'd noticed their dislike for me. They were all eyeing me with anger boldly written on their foreheads. I was close to tears that day. Albert noticed and quickly took me out of the house. He had also noticed their disapproval and was pissed. He apologized to me continuously as he drove me home. He explained to me that the family would have gotten a huge contract from his dad's business partner if he'd agreed to marry his daughter. However, she was fat and ugly, and he didn't want to marry someone he didn't love because of business ties. Since he declined, his family has rejected all the girls he has brought home. Once, they even stole his girlfriend's phone when she came visiting and threw it away. So, he isn't surprised how they acted towards me. He ended by telling me he loved me and will fight for us. At our wedding, they'd acted like ordinary people and even left before anyone. After our wedding, I didn't visit them, and they didn't either. Albert himself hadn't brought up any discussion regarding them, and I loved that he didn't. But now, I knew we had to visit them. I was going to have their first grandchild. I even hoped in my mind that the news of that would make them like me. When we got to their family home, we met the complete family there.
What are you two doing here?
At least show some courtesy and let us come in.
My mother-in-law had let us in with a frown on her face. Albert demanded for his sister and father to be in the living room too. Once everyone was in the living room, Albert broke the news to them.
She's pregnant?
Wow, I can't believe you're telling us such important news when it's already been 3 weeks.
I only got to know about my pregnancy 2 days ago, so it's not really our fault. But I apologize. I was shocked when his sister pulled me into a hug.
I want you to give birth to a girl so I can spoil her as I want.
Oh, shut it. She's gonna give us a boy as handsome as Albert.
I couldn't believe my eyes and ears. Why were they suddenly being incredibly nice to me? Since when did they start smiling at me? I turned to Albert, and he also had a look of disbelief and awe on his face. His father was quiet throughout, though, but that didn't matter. After a few minutes, my mother-in-law made a suggestion.
Well, son, since you're always away, Sarah dear is going to need company. Sarah, you said you'll be taking a break from the company, right? Why don't you move in here? You can stay here with us until the weekend when Albert returns.
They were making it even worse for me to believe that everything happening was real. I pinched myself, and the pain reminded me that I was still alive. I felt a fresh flush of happiness, seeing how my pregnancy had suddenly changed everything. And yes, I agreed to spend the weekdays at theirs, then return home on Friday evening. Albert also seemed happy about everything. 2 days later, I moved into my in-laws' home. On the first few days, they were welcoming and loving to me. However, it all changed after almost a week. It started with Albert's sister picking fights with me unnecessarily. She stopped me from going into her room, stopped speaking to me, and even yelled at me at the slightest provocation. His mother was worse. I had a strict diet, as I was the type to quickly put in weight. Also, the doctor had warned me on the day I got the result of my pregnancy test to be extremely careful with adding any weight. According to him, my baby didn't need me to gain weight at all. Albert was aware of it and helped in my dieting. However, Albert's mother began to make me eat food that contained excess fat. I even explained to her about my condition, but she refused to listen to me and forced me to clear bowls after bowls of fatty food. I couldn't refuse her, as I was scared of how aggressive she was. Whenever I was with Albert back at our home, I was tempted to tell him. But I didn't want him worrying about me more than he already was, and I also didn't want to start a fight between him and his family. I ate all of the fatty foods at my in-laws' home, but whenever I returned to my marital home, I would go on a more strict diet to save myself. However, it seemed as though it was getting worse the more I endured it. In my second month, the doctor reprimanded me for adding 20 kilos. Albert was also mad at me, as he trusted me to follow my diet. I couldn't bring myself to tell him that I was trying to, but his mother was making it hard for me. In tears, I apologized and promised to do better. When I returned to my in-laws, I talked to my father-in-law about my condition and how his wife was worsening it.
I don't see why you're telling me this. You know very well that I do not like you, so how can you think your health matters to me? Honestly, I would rather you die with that child and have a better lady marry my son.
He brushed me off and walked away, leaving me in shock. I knew he didn't like me, but I had no idea it was to that extent. I concluded that I wasn't safe there. I needed to leave as soon as possible. I immediately put a call through to my husband. It was Thursday and he usually returned on Friday, but I needed him to pick me up.
Did something happen?
Just come get me out of here. I'll tell you everything afterward.
All right, I'll be there tonight.
After the call, I began to pack my bags.
Open the
While
door.
at it, my mother-in-law and Albert's sister pushed my door open and walked in. I froze in fear.
I'm done preparing your meal. Come with us to eat.
No, Mother, I can't eat that anymore. It's too dangerous for me and my child. I'll cook something else for myself. They both burst into loud laughter. Without warning, Albert's sister grabbed my hair and began pulling me out of the room, my mother-in-law following behind us. I was screaming for help while begging her to let me go, but there was no one to save me, and Albert's sister didn't let go. As she pulled me toward the staircase, Albert's father appeared in front of us. I begged him to help, but he only hissed and walked past us. I knew I had to fight. I couldn't bring myself to eat one more bowl of that food. Let go of me! I screamed even more as I began fighting to get her grip off my hair. Albert's mother stepped in and grabbed my hands, holding them tightly behind me while she and her daughter mocked my helplessness. As if planned, they both suddenly let go of me. I lost my balance and tripped, rolling down the long staircase. By the time my body reached the bottom, I'd passed out. My in-laws had left me there until Albert arrived. He was shocked to see me in that state with them doing nothing about it.
You all are insane. Pray. Pray hard because if she doesn't wake up, I swear I'm gonna make you 3 rot in jail. How can you be so evil? She's carrying your grandchild and nephew. I hate you all.
My in-laws remained nonchalant. After a few minutes, the ambulance arrived and my unconscious self was taken away. Unfortunately, I lost our child. The fall and the time, wasted before treatment, had caused my child to die in my womb. While I was still unconscious at the hospital, the doctor had informed Albert that, due to the internal injuries I sustained, it would take a long time to heal and have another child. When he heard that, Albert had been so devastated. He took a break from work and stayed beside me, taking care of me for the full week I was unconscious. When he broke the news to me, I didn't know how to react. I felt so many emotions all at once. However, anger topped them all. I told him all that his family put me through and how his mother and sister had made me fall down the stairs while his father did nothing about it. Albert was livid. I'd never seen him so angry. After comforting me, he left the hospital and went straight to his family's house. On his way, he called the police. On reaching the house, he met them in the living room. Without caring about them being his family, Albert beat all three of them up, his anger controlling him. His sister's loud screams had attracted neighbors who rushed in and pulled him away. Immediately, the cops arrived and took all three of them away. My husband also went with the cops. Once my in-laws were held at the station, some detectives came with Albert to the hospital, where I recounted to them everything that had happened. Albert immediately filed a case against them for murder of our child, attempted murder on my part, alongside physical and emotional abuse. I was discharged from the hospital on the same day their case came up in court, so I was able to be present there. When I was called out to speak, I didn't hesitate to pour my whole heart out. I told the whole court how they hated me and pretended to like the news of my pregnancy simply because they wanted to harm me by making me stay in their home. I could see them hiding their faces in embarrassment. I hope you know that all three of you have made it 80% impossible for Albert to have a child of his own. The three of you will never know what it feels to have a grandchild, a niece, or a nephew, because if I'm even able to give birth again, I'm not going to let my child bear your name. I hope you never get out of jail. I hope you three remain behind those bars and suffer for the rest of your miserable lives. Albert's parents were in tears after I was done. Albert had told me his sister was born with a condition that prevented her from ever having kids, so he was their only way to get grandchildren. I could see the regret in their eyes. All three of them were given 10 years behind bars, and I felt compensated. At least, they would live in regret for their whole lives. As the cops pulled them out of the courtroom, they were apologizing to Albert and I, but we ignored them. They deserve no forgiveness for their actions. Albert and I, fortunately, were able to have a set of triplets after 5 years. And yes, I kept to my words. Our kids didn't have their names, and when they asked if Albert had any family, he responded by telling the kids that his family members had died a long time ago. Serves them right, doesn't it?